Hi, I'm Nicole, Lucy's mom, and I'm from United, Ohio. Today, I'm making a statement about the recently finalized appointments to the Medical Marijuana Advisory Committee, a committee with the purpose of bringing together relevant stakeholders to make sure that all concerns are voiced and all parties' voices are heard. The reason for this new law is to help people who are established patients that have tried many pharmaceuticals in the past and failed. There has been a robust effort from the patient community in response to Speaker Rosenberger's invitation to participate. In fact, he identified it as irresponsible for the patient community to do anything but participate in the State House effort. Yet, there is not a single member from the leadership of the cannabis patient advocacy community represented in these state appointments, from which there are ample qualified and varied voices. Not one. Within the committee, the member who represents law enforcement has many years' experience in law enforcement. The member representing labor has worked in support of unions. The member representing agriculture has qualification to represent that community from his experience owning and operating a family farm. But the patients and the caregiver appointments were handled differently. During committee hearings, State House Representative Anielski actually addressed this issue, wondering aloud, why are so many people worried about representation? It says right there, a person who represents patients. And at the time, it was only a patient rep. Caregivers were not added until later in the process. But I believe her comment suggests that Representative Anielski truly believed the intent of those words to mean the acknowledgement that the patient community would be represented into the future. We believe it's incomprehensible and unacceptable that the state has made the choice to exclude members from within the advocacy community. There's precedent in other states, like Pennsylvania and Maryland, that has not that long ago appointed caregivers and patients to their own advisory committees. This statement should in no way be understood as a negative comment directed towards either the appointed patient or caregiver representatives. Mr. Bybart clearly adds knowledge of policy. However, in listening to his former testimony, I heard a great deal more about Cole Memo compliance than about how, for example, policies in varied states best address the out-of-pocket cost for medicine. Both of those things are an important part of the conversation. Who will be in the room to remind committee members of those relevant patient issues? And I believe that Mr. McCarthy will do his genuine best to support best outcomes for patients. But I do believe he's been put in a very challenging position of representing the established patient community. Both of these choices sidestep genuine representation from the leadership in Ohio that says, we don't trust you and we're not sure we respect you yet, to the patient community. I understand that it's hard to embrace change, and this is a big one. But there are even State House members who were former skeptics that now believe that we are walking towards the right side of history with regards to cannabis as therapy. Those people listened and learned, and that is how change happens. We in the patient community deserve to be a direct part of the conversation within the advisory committee. It would go a long way for the State House to acknowledge and address this oversight. For example, cost protections, access of many kinds, quality standards, research, whole plant, procedures for adding future qualifying conditions, real medical advice, and community education, to name a few. All concerns that will naturally be discussed, but likely from the perspectives of other appointees during the charge of the advisory committee. It's important to note that Ohioans paid attention as this law unfolded. Some of them because they have loved ones that will likely benefit. This medical marijuana law has at its core the purpose of helping legitimately sick people gain access to safer medicine. Because let me be clear, it is likely that the vast majority of Ohioans that are helped in the early stages of this law are very sick, ailing people that have already trialed and failed numerous other pharmaceuticals. I will continue to work towards a united Ohio that supports those patients, as well as those that are not yet covered under the law. I hope you'll join me.